OnePlus's newest handset is not only affordable, but it might be their most compelling. It's Joshua Vergara from Android Authority. What's going on, everybody? And here are the first 48 hours that I've had with the OnePlus X. Now, as the name implies, of course, we have had the OnePlus X for a couple of days now, and that, of course, started with the unboxing. Now, the unboxing was mostly a conventional affair, but you do get a micro USB cable in the flat red design that OnePlus has sort of popularized since the OnePlus 2, and it does look really great. Again, this is a micro USB charging cable, so you're not getting USB Type-C here. You also get the plug adapter, but one nice addition that was in here was a lightweight plastic case that adds a little bit of protection, but once we get into the actual design and we actually held the phone, we thought we don't really need this case on there. And for a phone that's supposed to be so affordable, we actually think that the OnePlus X is feeling pretty premium. It definitely looks very premium with the metal chassis that then puts together the two glass panels. Now, a number of people have already said that this might look like an iPhone 4 to them, but we tend to think it looks a little bit more like a Sony Xperia. But at least OnePlus has really been trying to put some of their own design cues into this device. And that starts off with the metal sides that have a bunch of micro cuts in them. Now, this seems a little bit simple, but we do think that it helps with the handling because you get a real tactile feel on the sides there. But the main thing about this device is its size. With a 5-inch screen, this is definitely one of the easier to handle devices in one hand. Now, we haven't really had any shortage of small devices this year, but we definitely have had a lot of bigger ones, and it's nice to see that in their second offering in 2015, the OnePlus X sticks to the smaller size category. Now, you're going to notice that I don't have any soft keys on right now, even though in the Oxygen OS it does allow you to turn them on, but there are capacitive keys way down on the bottom there, and they're actually kind of close to the edge there. You do have to reach down pretty far, at least it doesn't seem so symmetrical, at least when you're doing it, that you have to reach so far down near the edge in order to trigger those buttons. But that being said, the responsiveness of them has not been an issue at all. It's just kind of interesting that when you have to reach all the way down and basically let your finger slide off the phone, that's how you have to get to the capacitive keys. The display is full HD in AMOLED construction, which is nice because the Oxygen OS starts off in the dark mode. It is on by default, which means that the AMOLED display should be able to provide some better battery life because it doesn't have to have all the pixels on at all times in the dark mode. What you get in the inside of the OnePlus X might seem really familiar. If you had a OnePlus One from last year, then the performance aspect would be very similar, except you have a bumped up RAM capacity with 1 more gigabyte in there. So really, the Snapdragon 801 should be able to perform still pretty well on here, and OnePlus told us at their event that the 801 in their testing still performed better than the more recently released Snapdragon 617. And thus far, we don't think there is any problem with that statement, as we've had a pretty reliable time in the last couple of days thus far. But of course, we're going to put more heavy usage on here, and we'll let you know how that goes. Hardware is a bit of a mishmash from the previous two OnePlus devices, and the reason why is because a number of features that came on the OnePlus 2 are not really here on the OnePlus X, which may be totally fine, but one of them that does come is this alert slider on the side, which is nice that you don't have to actually turn on the phone in order to mute it, let's say, but you can always have it in the typical sense. You can do all, none, or the prioritized notifications to come through using that slider. The features that don't come from the OnePlus 2 are the fingerprint reader and the USB Type-C port. Now, the one thing about this micro USB cable port right here, which is more conventional and it should be better for everyone who still has a bunch of cables, is that in my testing, it doesn't seem there's any fast charging on here, which is a bit of a bummer. But the main feature that I know a lot of people are going to love about the OnePlus X that wasn't even in the original two OnePlus devices is the fact that you can expand the storage. Now, this particular phone that I have in my hand has 16 gigabytes for usage, but when you pop out that dual SIM tray, that feature does return, one of those trays can be used for a micro SD card instead. So it's great that you can add in extra storage on here, where a lot of other phones tend to not have this feature. And in camera, listed as 12.4 megapixels in the settings at least, we have taken a few pictures from this camera and we are going to show you them here, but of course we're going to have our opinions for our full review. That said, however, the camera app inside of the OnePlus X is very similar to the one in the OnePlus 2, which allows you to change the modes by swiping in the viewfinder, but that provides one little issue. The thing is, when you are in landscape mode trying to take a picture and you're swiping up and down from the different modes, when you get to the panorama, it reorientates to portrait mode, which is a little bit disorienting, I have to say. It's not that big of a deal, and it's actually nice that panorama is down at the bottom of that list. And finally, in software, we have the Oxygen OS, which is very familiar from the OnePlus 2. All of the same features do return here, and there's not really anything that new. But we will say that in the initial setup, you do have the option to not only turn on the shelf, but the dark mode is enabled by default. And like we mentioned already before in the display section, that's a really good choice to have for an AMOLED screen, so battery life should be kind of good. But ultimately, you still get a really stock-like Android experience on here with all of the same elements that you could pretty much expect. And of course, because this is Lollipop, we still have those elements from here, and Marshmallow should be coming pretty soon. But really, if you had the OnePlus 2 and you have Oxygen OS, even on the OnePlus 1, if you updated it, this is actually very familiar for you. But of course, as you probably know by now from our original first look, the best part about the OnePlus X is its price. $250, of course with an invite, at least for the first month, and then a little bit after that, will get you a phone that so far seems pretty premium in its look, feel, and it actually provides some features that other flagships haven't been able to, like expandable storage. Now, of course, we're going to reserve our opinions for the full review